Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Stiff Upper Lip podcast. We're back intermittently throughout this World Cup process. We sort of sacked it off last week and almost sacked it off again this week, I fear, and probably will sack it off again next week when I can't record because England are on the Sunday. Joining us today, of course, alongside myself, is Max Saito and Sam Longdon. How are you both doing?
Not too badly. I mean, I'm absolutely fighting for my life right now. I've got no monitor, so I'm back on my phone. The internet's just on the brink of some horrible collapse into some sort of terrible internet singularity, which will start sucking information into it. And other than that, fine.
Will become like weird cel-shaded 3D kind of.
No, it's like you know how they created all like the smart motorways and then they realized they were fucking terrible and having to undo them. It's like creating this. It's like my internet trying to create the smart information superhighway, but it's much worse.
And how are you doing, Sam?
I'm great. I've come down with an incredibly mild, almost negligible case of World Cup soccer fever.
Yeah, it's soccer fever. Woo!
But we're not here to talk about soccer, are we?
We're here. Yeah. Oh dear.
Don't cry for me. I'm in Argentina.
Right. Anyway, let's let's get this show on the road because there are quite a lot of actual prime timey games here because obviously it was Thanksgiving on Thursday.
Was that Tim Vickery?
No, it was Chris Tarrant. A man who exudes Tim Vickery. Oh God. We had 3 games this Thanksgiving as always, featuring the Lions, the Cowboys, and a random team in prime time. And let's start with the Detroit Lions, who played out a 28-25 loss against the Buffalo Bills, but wasn't plain sailing for Buffalo. Detroit Lions seem to be heading into their berserker territory, where sitting at 4-7, they're about to get Jameson Williams back. They could upset the apple cart a few times. Amon-Ra St. Brown popping off for 9 catches, 122 yards. But obviously wasn't quite enough to end up taking the win as Tyler Bass kicked the game-winning field goal. Did anyone enjoy this game? I know I did.
Yeah, it was great. The Lions there's a pretty big connection between the Lions playing well and actually playing a team that plays slightly better. But it makes for a good game.
Yeah, I'll go along with that. I don't really have many notes about this one. Just the team that was better won on the day. I'm not really worried about I'm not really worried about the Bills because they get held by the Lions here, because I think realistically there is a shot for the Lions to do this to a couple teams. I'm not sure what the rest of their schedule looks like, but they could easily, take the Vikings into overtime or something when they play them next, or if they've got a game against the Cowboys or something coming up, they could easily take any of that going forward. So yeah, I'm not at all worried about Buffalo. I'm just mildly enthused about the Lions actually being worth watching on a Thanksgiving. Because does anyone remember when we got David Blau versus Tim Boyle, was it?
No, it was Trubisky, wasn't it?
Well, Trubisky got injured in the first quarter, I seem to remember. So we did have a David Blau game against, I think, Tim Boyle.
Tim Boyle and David Blau were both on the Lions.
Maybe it wasn't. It was Chase Daniel. That's who it was.
Tyler Bray.
No,
Mitch doesn't feel great. Can we borrow one of yours?
Yeah, but yeah, it was just nice to have this early window game and have it not be a complete snore on a Thursday evening after a long hard day at work. So yeah, especially when World Cup games are on as well. Could not be dealing with Lions Bills trying to eat into my Brazil Serbia time. So I think it was Brazil Serbia on that day. That might have been Sunday actually. Oh no, Sunday was Germany Spain. But yeah.
No, it was a fun game to watch. Which the Lions game. Like, remember when it was Joe and Troy, where they were just openly slagging that game off? Like,
Yeah.
they were just like, it was just like a joke. So it's pretty good. You're right. I'm not worried about the Bills. There was a stat. I've just been looking this up, but the last three Super Bowl champions, so the 21 Rams, the 20 Bucks, and the 2019 Chiefs, their records in November of the years they won the Super Bowl, the Rams were 0-3, the Bucks were 2-3, and the Chiefs were 2-1, and they had a bye as well. So it is a trend the last few years of teams. Whoever closes out strong, all of those teams. Well, the Rams lost the last game of the season against the 49ers in that overtime game, but the other two won 4 or 5 games in a row. So as long as the Bills close out strong, but they're still going to be there or thereabouts.
So what you're saying is that if you have a strong November, you don't win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. If you're looking like a good team in November, fuck you.
Yeah. Sorry, Cincinnati. You're not making.
They were
You're
terrible
not...
in September as well. Or in November as well last year, weren't they?
Well, yeah, but they're having a good November this year. Is more my point.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
Enough said.
Yeah, the Giants, funnily enough, are having a pretty poor November. Let's turn our attention there.
Direct line to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, hook it up to my veins. We've had a bad November. But yeah, Dallas Cowboys 28, New York Giants 20. Sam, I assume that you'll be able to take the lead on this one and that you weren't only sort of briefly paying attention to your own team, right?
Yeah, it was. It started off quite well. There were some. If you looked at like the like Dax line score for this game and saw the 2 interceptions, you'd probably think it was like a bit of an off-color game for him given the last couple of weeks. But like 2 early interceptions and one of them was like tipped. But he's playing very well. It's this was not as close a game as 28-20 makes it feel like. The Cowboys defense was fucking ridiculous. They're gonna do some damage in the playoffs, and the Giants probably won't. They just did a very good job in about every aspect, and it was a bit disappointing, but no one thought this was going to go any differently.
That's entirely fair. I've got a quick question about this one, just in particular. I know that I asked it sort of 5 weeks ago, and obviously a lot can change in the NFL. Micah Parsons is still favourite for Defensive Player of the Year, right? Another 2 sacks in this game.
Oh God, yeah.
He's just it seems like every week he's showing up on the box score, making an absolute mess of the other team. Those game wreckers are the ones that should always be like in at least the top 2 for Defensive Player of the Year. Micah Parsons is just playing out of his mind right now. I'd be happy to just give it him now.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like he kind of felt inevitable for a lot of this game. Like I don't know what his stat for pressures was, but it sure felt high. Like Daniel Jones had like 14 yards rushing this game. Kind of tell how bad / good it went by how many yards he has on the ground. Because if you kind of take away the aspect of their offense, everything else kind of crumbles because the receivers ain't shit. So they did have like a touchdown taken off the board for like an ineligible receiver downfield, I think, which I think was horseshit. But they wouldn't have deserved to get anything out of this game, realistically.
Biting critique.
Avon Thibodeau played really well in this game, didn't they?
Yeah, he's like the amount he got like 9 pressures this game. He's consistently like the sacks aren't really there or like forced fumbles or anything like that, but he's so consistently getting pressure. He's a turned out to be a very nice pick. Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah, I'll go along with that. Fair play. It feels like the Giants have definitely turned a corner of actually acquiring talent that is worth it. Hopefully they can carry on kicking on. Really.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
'cause-
and I think this game is a good opportunity to. I mean, the Giants are 7-4. This is far beyond like any Giants fans' hopes for this season, but like it's good to keep perspective for when they get into the playoffs and get like monstered in the first wildcard game. Because the talent, like for the most part, like the coaching's great and the play calling's great, but the talent just isn't there, and that will continue for a short while.
It does feel like the Giants could close out on like a 1-5 skid or something like that.
Well, they've got like 2 games against the Commanders coming up in the next 3 weeks, I think. Who are kind of looking like a bit of a berserker. I mean, it's a great year for the NFC East, and for fans of like novelty headwear. But yeah, it was a good like bringing everyone back down to earth game.
All right, entirely fair. Okay, then on the final game of Thanksgiving, we had the New England Patriots losing 26 to 33 at US Bank Stadium. Vikings in their primetime purples. They showed up. Kirk Cousins, primetime Kirk, had a pretty nice day. He went 30 of 37 for 299 yards with 3 touchdowns. Threw a pretty typical primetime Kirk pick that almost let the Patriots back into it on I think it was in the third quarter when he threw that pick, but outside of that, just a very clean game. Justin Jefferson as well, keeping on rolling, keeping his momentum going. The Vikings improved to 9-2, which puts them just second again in the NFC, which is I mean it must be bloody nice, Fred, to be able to celebrate some Vikings wins. I will say though, for what feels like the first time in years, I think the Patriots got kind of screwed here by the refs. Couple real bad blown calls. One of them on a Hunt Henry touchdown catch. However, I won't feel sorry for them because this is just karma for 2018. So fuck you, New England. You didn't deserve shit. And the Vikings were deserved winners on the day.
Yeah, this was like the Patriots have kind of run most teams into the ground this year, and that absolutely did not happen today. Like Vikings kind of stuffed their run game pretty quickly, but like this was a great passing game, I think, from Mac Jones. Like, and I mean the receiving core for Patriots is a bit suspect.
Yeah.
5 players with 60 or more receiving yards.
And it felt like quite a bit of that came after the catch as well, but not in the sort of sense of a receiver juking players consistently. It felt more like they had good blocking on screen plays, they had a bit of trickery, and also the Vikings sort of struggled a bit at open field tackling at times. But I wouldn't say that the receiving core of Devontae Parker, Nelson Aguilar, Hunter Henry, Jacoby Myers, and Kendrick Bourne are really good enough to carry them going forward. And yet Mac Jones made it work because he still went 28 of 39 with 382 yards and 2 tutties. Should have been 3.
He really needed that bounce back as well after that Jets game where he looked the absolute pits. I mean, he played almost as badly as Zach Wilson did, although they did move the ball in that game, which the Jets can't be, so they did.
Yeah. He got,
is it
kind of
really
got let off the hook a little bit because all of the attention was on Wilson. So yeah, good to get the bounce back.
But Patriots fans were definitely talking about it. But yeah, it's huge for them. I think the Patriots just lack star power in offense. Like you said, they've just got a bunch of guys. I mean, their running backs are pretty good. And I mean, Damian Harris is out for the year now, isn't he? But Ramondre Stevenson's pretty good. They just don't have anyone who they can go to time and time again who's going to win one-on-ones reliable on like a reliable basis. So they're kind of going to be pretty much mired in mediocrity. I mean, they as a team they don't really have who's their star player as a team, like Matthew Judon maybe.
Yeah, for me it'd be Judon, who's having an absolutely all-pro level year. He Matthew Judon sort of. If I could describe his career, it'd be a roller coaster because he'll have years like in 2020 where he absolutely balled out. I think he had 14 sacks on the year, was playing great for the Ravens, and then the year after just didn't really contribute anything. And now this year, playing really well again. So maybe give him like a 3-year deal and try and catch him in the middle of those like cycles so you get 2 good years instead of 1. But yeah, fair play.
Yeah, this was quite a. I was expecting the Vikings to feel like Christian Darrisaw not being there a bit more, but the line held up very well. I do think it's like obviously I take pleasure from the Patriots kind of eating shit in an unfair way, but like, can you imagine anything like annoying Bill Belichick more than like losing a game with admittedly some blown calls to your own previous backup quarterback?
I don't know. He's been around for so long. It probably happens more often. You know, he probably knows
more often than not.
He probably knows just about everyone, right? I don't think he's
most
fine out there.
Like 90%, upwards of 90% of NFL head coaches have played or will play as a backup quarterback for the New England Patriots.
Yeah, that is true. Matt LaFleur's due to play as a backup there next year, I think.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's a good job Matt Rule has another job now, because that might have been a rough show.
All right, let's turn our attention then away from Thanksgiving into the Sunday night football game where the Green Bay Packers travelled to the Link and were pretty swiftly dispatched by the Philadelphia Eagles. The scoreline being 40-33 kind of feels like a little bit of a sort of false reflection, just a tad. But it was a hell of a game for the sort of old school football purists in the sense of just hard-nosed running, but also no air yards whatsoever for either side. Jalen Hurts, 17 carries, 157 yards. Miles Sanders, 21 carries, 143 yards. And on the other side of the ball, you know, A.J. Dillon had 64 yards on 8 carries and a touchdown. Aaron Jones had 43 yards on 12 carries, but again also had 56 yards in basically just a bunch of screens and swings. So it was very old school, and I could kind of see that being the case for the Eagles' wins a lot this year. Very old school football.
It'll help them. It'll help them in the postseason being able to play like this. I don't think it was like a stomping this game, but it was just the Packers just got run over on defense, and the offense couldn't keep up. Like, although it's probably not as close as it looks, like they just couldn't get a stop. They couldn't pull within touching distance, and the Eagles felt comfortable, like they had whatever they wanted all day. So, yeah, I think you're right, because we had talked about how at the start of the year, running was definitely their identity, the Eagles, but they kind of had a month there where they kind of faded off it a little bit. So this will be great for their confidence.
Yeah, we were sort of not overly expressing like huge concern, but it was just a little bit unnerving to see them sort of. They picked up that first loss against the Commanders, and then they didn't really get right after the bye, and it felt just a tiny bit like they'd lost their momentum, they'd lost their steam. But putting up 40 points and just having anything that they wanted on the ground game, that'll help big time. Sam, I know that because Ed isn't here, you said that you were going to get in one really unnecessarily critical Jalen Hurts take. Have you got that for us right now?
Yeah, throw the ball, you bitch.
All right, sweet.
I know you're running for 7 yards a clip on the ground, but don't be a coward.
Yeah, how dare you run for 9.2 average yards and only throw for... Hang on, let me do the math. 9.2 average yards in the air. Yeah.
This team is kind of scary. Like, I know they have off weeks, but I've kind of.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to go there off a bye in January or late January.
Yeah, because the link as well. Like when that Philly crowd starts getting behind the team, if you can get the Boo Birds out, then it's a different beast. But when the Philly crowd are on form, I mean, we saw it when they won the Super Bowl when the whole crowd were behind them with that whole underdogs movement and shit. Everybody was showing up to the game in like rubber masks and like hounding teams. They did look like a completely different entity. Yeah, I'm glad someone picked up on that one. Yeah, keep hounding.
Yeah, I mean, when there's an incredibly high likelihood of getting like clocked by a glass bottle,
they don't sell glass bottles anymore.
Oh, yeah. They bring them in.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, that's fair. So they've got instead of you go through the metal detectors in Philly, then you have to go through the glass detectors.
Yeah, or there's a set of diehard fans that bring in 8-liter demi-johns for when they have another high snap.
Wow.
They just go down to their local craft tap house before and get 3 empty growlers.
The Eagles are going to get Jordan Davis back. He's opened up his 21-day practice window, which is huge, to be honest.
To add to Sue and not Everson. Who else have they got there?
Linval Joseph. They've still obviously got Brendan Graham.
Fletcher Cox is still there.
Fletcher Cox is still there. I don't know if he's healthy right now. I think that they brought in Sue to do that. But yeah, they might just be able to play with like 4 nose tackles on the field at any point. What are you going to do then?
Run a jet sweep.
Also, speaking of they're getting Jordan Davis back, but the surprising and kind of scary injury news is that CJ Gardner-Johnson had lacerated kidneys in this game. That's why he went out, which is not great. You never really like to see somebody pick up lacerated kidneys. Ouch.
Every time the Packers play the Eagles, people just get their shit rocked. I don't know. These teams just hit the crap out of each other. I don't know why. Obviously, Rodgers went out of this game with an injury. Unfortunately, he says the news is good, so he wants to play against Chicago. I mean, you're 4-8. I don't think it's that important.
No, but
unless you're going to retire this summer.
But he is Paran Podgers. He stat pads against the Bears.
Stat pads? If he wanted to stat pad, he'd sit out.
Padding out those interceptions.
I know. He has been throwing a lot of interceptions this year. I think it's because, in general, he's just trying to get the rookie receivers involved more, which is naturally leads to more interceptions. But he's also just not as accurate. And he's saying you got the broken thumb and you got cracked rib or whatever. It's just it's not really worth it. It doesn't help anyone, does it? And the Packers, when they're gonna lose double-digit games here, probably 11 or something like that. You got to think heads have got to roll at that point, and if the quarterback's not leaving, and you're not going to fire the head coach, probably the defensive coordinator. Because since remember when Rashawn Gary and Devondre Campbell both got hurt back-to-back weeks, the defense was bad before that, but now it's an interplanetary awful. Yeah. So no spine, and even though they've been in the same system for 2 years, there's still constant miscommunication. So that doesn't reflect well on the coordinator. The only thing for the Packers I would say is maybe next year when they've got Watson and Dobbs in there coming off a full summer, that might be good because Christian Watson looks like a real home run hitter. He looks like he can house any crossing route That would be useful. He's got 6 touchdowns in his last 3 games. I think he averages like 1 touchdown for every second reception. So if these trends continue,
Yeah. Like a couple of catches in this game, like Jordan Love didn't play like badly in relief.
he played
but-
well. He played well enough. Like I mean,
Yeah.
the Eagles weren't really getting after him fully, but
but like a lot of
he showed more than he has done in his other
quite a
brief
few of
cameo.
like I mean, there was a play or two to Christian Watson that was like all Christian Watson. Like,
Yeah. He's
really up for it.
He's just very fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be
Alright.
good. Like I said, it'd be good if Jordan Love played a game, like just a full game on a full week of preparation with the ones. That'd be useful. But some people don't know when to give up.
Ouch. All right. Heading over then to Monday
I'll
Night
see
Football.
you in hell.
I have it lined up and everything. Come on now.
I'll see you in hell.
Perfect. All right. Heading over then to Monday Night Football, where the Indianapolis Colts hosted the Pittsburgh Steelers and gave the Steelers their first road win since Week 1 in Cincinnati. 24-17 winners.
God.
Yeah, we've only won 4 games. Come on now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that does just happen. But yeah, Colts' main storyline about this game will be Jeff Saturday, who has had a pair of pretty nice weeks in terms of his coaching career starting out. But this one was filled with pretty much every coaching error that you could possibly think of, including the cardinal sin, bad clock management, where with about a minute and 41 seconds left in the fourth quarter, Matt Ryan completes a pass over the middle. They don't call a timeout, so it's like, okay, all right. A minute 14 left. Matt Ryan takes a sack. Okay, we're not going to call timeout now. Okay. Matt Ryan then scrambles on the next play. Still no timeouts. Gets to a 4th and 3 after diving. Still no timeouts called. They finally then call one. With about 21 seconds left in the game, meaning that they still have 2 timeouts left, but it's now 4th and 3 on Matt Ryan, who hasn't actually thrown the ball very well all game so far, to then try and feed it to any of his receivers. Obviously, it doesn't work because Minka Fitzpatrick, who'd been jumping routes all game, makes a big game-saving and game-winning play, which begs the question, why did they not take a timeout for a minute and a half in the game that they, could have done with not losing to a pretty... I mean, it was a bad showing from the Colts, but they still had life left at the end. Yeah. Somehow. This game got very weird in the third quarter. First half, Matt Ryan, I think, had a total of somewhere along the lines of 15 net passing yards because of, sacks and incompletions and basically not being able to complete a pass. Second half, actually doing all right. But it was very much not a good showing from the defense, who pretty much gave up yards to practice squad players like Benny Snell and Anthony McFarland just all day on the ground. Also, nice game from Kenny Pickett as well. Had a couple touchdowns dropped. One that definitely should have been caught by Deontay Johnson. But had a nice game for the rookie. I think it's probably his most complete game. But the Colts will feel like this is a big opportunity lost because they just didn't play well. They had crucial errors all over the park. Jonathan Taylor sort of snapped at the ball on the goal line and fumbled it. And then there's just a really funny image of Chris Wormley running in there to wrestle the ball out of Matt Ryan's hands, who looked like he'd recovered the fumble. And then it turned out no, there's a 300-pound lineman just ripping the ball away from poor Matt Ryan's cold, wrinkled fingers because this man is cooked. Ouch. The Colts, pretty moribund. They only really got any momentum off of a really nice return from Dallas Flowers, who went 90 yards on a kick return right after halftime. Other than that, they
there was
were
another
bad.
pretty big there's another pretty big kick return, wasn't there?
They had they had the sort of beating of the Steelers special teams unit quite a lot on kickoff and punt returns. They had I'm just trying to remember the name of the other guy who was returning kicks and punts for them in the first half. I think Isaiah Rogers. He was averaging 35.8 yards a return, which is a lot of ground given up. The Colts had great field position quite a lot in this game. Just kept coughing it up. Just kept turning it over. But yeah, just in total a bad day for the Colts, but also a good game for the Steelers as well. Nice to see them actually picking up a win, playing better than a truly poor team. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that game, really. Anyone else?
Sorry.
Nothing from me, my friend.
I did. I mean, you might have said it just then when I had the bounce, but this was a pretty nice Kenny Pickett game.
It was.
He did
Wasn't
say
it?
that, yeah.
I did say that, but I'm happy to go into it considering that we went into Jordan Love and Christian Watson twice. So I'm happy to say that Kenny Pickett had a really good game. They just overall in the first half played really well. His connection to George Pickens looks like a real difference maker so far already for our offense, because they actually spent quite a lot of time in the second and third teams during training camp, whereas Trubisky was taking most of the first team reps. So it's quite understandable that Pickett's got his best connection with the guy that he was doing everything in training camp with, and not quite really hooking up with Deontay Johnson and Pat Freiermuth as well. To be fair, actually, he did have some really nice connections to Johnson and Freiermuth at points in the game, but his main guy is really starting to emerge as George Pickens, who had another just complete highlight reel catch. I'm hoping that he doesn't start believing his hype about the highlight reel catches, though. He had one play where Pickett sort of... No, it can happen with the receiver where, they'll start wanting the Sports Center top 10 play every time, and they'll start trying to go, one hand every play.
Just say that Deontay Johnson annoys you.
No. I'm talking about George Pickens. I'm saying that George Pickens... I don't want him to start getting into that mindset of gotta go for the one hand every time, because he tried one handing a touchdown pass. Pickett did overthrow him a little bit, just a little bit. But if Pickens goes for it with two hands, I think he could come down with it. He's clearly got the capability to do so. I think Pickett could have just hit him more cleanly, but your receivers as well, try not to go for it one-handed next time, George, and you might come away with a touchdown there.
Okay. Yeah, I have nothing else.
Sweet. All right, let's turn our attention then to the Sunday slate, where we've only really got 3 games that I think really need a proper deep dive, and then everything else is just news notes and scorelines. And where better place to start the Sunday games than with a game that actually got delayed for 15 minutes and ran right into that second window. But I didn't mind, because it was Trevor Lawrence running a clutch-ass drive, game winner, to beat the Baltimore Ravens 28-27. Jacksonville up at 4-7. And this was Trevor Lawrence's best game by far, in my opinion. Unbelievable onions on not only him but Doug Peterson, going for 2 right at the end of the game. A hell of a game for the second-year player, who is really starting to warm up a little bit over the last few weeks. Started finally turning that corner, climbing over that wall, and now here he comes.
Yeah, he's starting to he's starting to look like he could be what was advertised, as opposed to last year. But I mean, he went for over 300 yards, really clean game. I think the quick game impressed me most, right at the end. He was hitting people exactly where they needed to be, and yeah, I just can't understand how the Ravens can keep doing this. They're 7-4, and they've shit the bed so badly in pretty much every one of those losses that I feel like they deserve more.
Yeah, they all four of their losses they've been up by at least 10 points in. Obviously the Dolphins, they lost to the Bills. I believe they were up by over 10 points in that one. I think it was 17-3 at one point, I seem to remember. Then there was the Giants game where Jackson threw that sort of very costly turnover. And then the game here against the Jags, they do just keep kind of blowing it a little bit every so often.
I feel like for the past few years, what I understood as conventional wisdom was that they weren't exactly a team built to play from behind. But they certainly can't play from ahead. I just don't understand what's happening.
Can't play from behind, can't play from ahead. Where are they going to play from? A torso?
They can play exactly. They can play at a tie incredibly well.
Up in the collarbone sort of region, I see.
Jesus.
Oh, really scraping the barrel here on the Stiff Upper Lip podcast. You try doing NFL episodes during a World Cup, you fucks.
Oh yeah, God forbid I miss a second of fucking Tunisia, Denmark or something.
Yeah. Big game.
How will I ever get back?
Well, neither of them are going to be at the World Cup anymore, so there's your fucking
You took
joke.
a month off. You took a month of this podcast to read books and eat cheese.
Look, I'm maybe it's just different because I feel like I've already reached the heights. Watching Barnsley's FA Cup run in 2008, I kind of reached the mountaintop, and football doesn't really have anything left to
Shut the hell up!
Let's yeah. I don't have anything else to add for this game, and I just wanted to shut Sam up for a change.
Yeah, I think I just said what I wanted to say.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on then to the to the turf of Lumen Field, where the Seattle Seahawks fell to 6-5 to Josh McDaniels' frisky Raiders, 40-34. It's probably the first time that anyone's ever addressed the Raiders as frisky. And it was pretty much all on the back of Josh Jacobs. 303 combined yards on 39 touches. Absolutely zero stopping that man out of Alabama. Might have even been Georgia. I think it was Alabama.
It was Alabama.
Nice. I got that. You got a 50-50 shot. It's a flip of a coin. Got it right, baby. Heads finally wins.
Just win, baby. Yeah, it was a funny game. The Seahawks are on a bit of a skid now, aren't they? What are they up to? They lost against the Bucks in Germany. They lost this game.
Yeah, it's just a 2-game skid at the moment. They beat the Cardinals, Giants, Chargers, and Cardinals beforehand. So, yeah, 2 losses on the bounce. They've got a big get back game against the Rams. Who'd have thought that? We'd be saying that the Seahawks have got a huge get right game against the Rams. What a bonkers season for the Seahawks. They'll just be happy with whatever happens from now, right? Surely.
I don't know. Once you kind of get into playoff contention and you look good, you want to see it through. Right, Sam?
Yeah, you've got to. You know?
It would be a bit of a... when you start off that good, you definitely do recalibrate your expectations for the year.
Yeah, I mean, like this. Obviously, there was an interception and there was another one taken off the board, but like I still think Gino played like pretty well. Like if the Seattle defense was kind of performing more, then I don't think we'd be here. I mean,
I think
Seattle did have 2 punts to end their offensive performances this game, but still.
Yeah, I get the feeling that when we talk about teams like the Seahawks and the Giants, I don't really think that their play in games like they both had this week, it was really that much different to how they were playing when they were winning games marginally. Both of those teams were winning games on the edge of a knife at times.
Yeah, on sheer pluck alone.
So these kind of things are always going to happen. You just need to sort of have faith with it, I suppose, not get into your own head and try going out of your way to change, because you had a certain method that was bringing you success at the start of the year. So yeah, to me the Seahawks need to keep going. No risk it, no biscuit, because their defense isn't going to be a game. It's not going to win them games. So Geno Smith needs to keep chucking it, because that's what their strength has been all year.
Well, they just need to keep moving the ball on offense, whether Geno chucks it or Kenneth Walker runs it. They didn't get the run game going at all here in this one, which
I think against the Bucks either.
Yeah, I think it's starting to become just a tiny bit of a concern. I wonder if they were sort of getting quite a lot of really good performances out of Kenneth Walker when he first sort of came in, or at the very least they'd get like a couple really good runs. But Rashad Penny was sort of their lead back, and when he went down, I don't know if that almost ruined their run game a little bit. Not to say that obviously I mean, I believe in Kenneth Walker. I think he's a great talent, but I feel like Rashad Penny, the way that he runs, is able to make up for the O-line being bad. It reminds me a little bit like when Saquon Barkley, obviously that first year, the Giants O-line was dreadful. I'm not saying that they run the same way, but a good running back, if they're good enough at what they're doing and they're schemed well, they can still overcome that. I'm not sure whether or not Kenneth Walker at this stage in his career, because he's only a rookie. He's not ran the ball all that often so far for the Seahawks this year. Whether or not him being a lead back and DJ Dallas and Travis Homer being his backups, I'm not sure whether or not that's really paying off at the moment.
Yeah, or it could just simply be that teams know what he can do now. There's tape on him, and they're afraid of him as a home run hitter, so they're playing the run a lot more.
Yeah, potentially.
A lot of players who come in, I mean, we see it all the time. A lot of players who come into the league and they look really splashy. They'll have this period that they have to go through. They have to work through it and develop to come out through on the other side. And I think he's definitely got the tools to do that, so I wouldn't be too concerned.
Yeah. No, I believe in his career, but yeah, they probably could do with doing something just a little bit different, adding a couple extra rubs and wrinkles to their running game, because otherwise, it could really start to cost them a little bit. Because it wasn't on Geno this game. It was just everything else just seemed to sort of fall around him a bit. Okay. Final game that we want to sort of break down on properly, I'd say, would be Chargers 25, Cardinals 24. My main sort of point about this one is that the Cardinals are paying Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury until 2027, which is a big yikes. Shades of Alan Pardew at Newcastle gave him an extra long contract, and it backfiring almost immediately because, oh my God, this team stinks.
Yeah, and this was one of their better games.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, this was one of their better games this year. But I think both these teams are kind of, you know, the Chargers are disappointing. They're both quite disappointing. They're both kind of just seeing it out to the.
Neither of these teams deserve our respect.
Well,
Well,
harsh to say that about our beloved Chargers.
they've been so underwhelming this year. They've underperformed so consistently.
I don't know if they have been inconsistent though. Sometimes they'll come out and they'll play really bloody well, like the games. Last week against the Chiefs, or they did incredibly well against like. I mean, I know that it was the Texans, but they did pretty damn well against the Raiders earlier on. They did all right against the them who shall not be named, and yet they also give up 37 points to the Seahawks and don't score more than 17 on the Niners. And what are they like? What is this team? What are they
like?
Oh.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to me, the two teams, whether their coaches will be there at the start of the next year, because there's different reasons, right? Brandon Say's had 2 years, and the Chargers are basically still stuck in the same place as when he took over. And the Cardinals should really be firing their coach, but as you just said, the amount of money locked up in is insane. Even though, to me, the one thing that's really different is that the culture and the Cardinals this year seems to have been hideous. It's like they seem to have no grip on this. Like the team looks really bad. Like the Chargers are disappointing and they're not inspiring anybody, but at least they're not going down in flames.
They manage enough like consistent play to like scrape these things, but like they had one good quarter this game. It was like this. I only watched the like 40-minute version of this game. It was horrible. Like the entirety of the Chargers' possessions were punt, 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 touchdown, touchdown in the second quarter, which was their one good one, and then field goal, punt, 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 touchdown. Like, how sustainable is this?
Yeah, it is a very valid point, I'd say, but I think Max is right about like the Chargers culture feels more like a team that's not well coached, but at least they aren't like. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if we were to hear stories in this off season about like player unrest, and I don't want to pin it on. I'm not gonna pin the whole thing on Kyler Murray because this is a coach's problem. But how much of this off season being taken up by Kyler Murray's contract dispute, and then that one clause in his contract that was like you need to study film, and now all of a sudden he's gone out missing for weeks on end, and he's still not won a game since Modern Warfare 2 came out, and the Cardinals still kind of just stink whether or not he plays or not, and the only time that they've played well is when he hasn't played, and I'm just wondering how much of that is because the leader of the team is a petulant child that has absolutely no grip on reality.
That was a big old leap in logic right at the end.
But when a team has those sorts of things, no. But when a team,
leader. nobody's a natural leader in that.
No,
in that Cardinals offense, they're all totally apathetic.
But this is the thing: is like if you're going to pay a guy $250 million to be the leader of the team, you kind of want him to actually be the leader of the team. Players that aren't great. Jimmy Garoppolo isn't a great football player, but you get the impression that he's well liked by the 49ers. You get the impression that he's actually prepared to, do a thing for the team's sake. I don't see Kyler Murray, and it's the same problem with Russell Wilson. I don't see either of those two as a player that the locker room actually wants to get behind in any way, shape, or form. And it means that there are just going to be instances where this team just stinks. The locker room is appalling.
I feel like that's only the case because, like, Kyler hasn't played great this year. That is not like a secret. But like this game, like
It is a secret.
most of their points were like Kyler making something out of nothing. Like when the rest of the team, like especially on defense, does not show up, like, and you end up with these like cascading losses. Like, of course, the culture's gonna be dog shit because, like, I think if the culture was better and if the rest of the team performed better, it wouldn't be an issue. Like, it's not like you have to be Jimmy G to be like liked enough to be tolerated. Like, Rodgers, I'm sure, has been insufferable for a really long time.
You think so?
But he was amazing.
But I get
For
the
a
impression
very
that there's
long
more.
time.
I get the impression though with Rodgers is that there's a lot of respect within the team for, like, what he
what
does
he does.
on the field.
Yeah.
I don't get that vibe with Kyler Murray. I don't know if it. There's just something about the whole experience, and it's. I know what you're saying about how most of their points in this game came from him doing something like magical on his own almost, but like, I mean, I know that the roster is poorly constructed, and this is on Steam Kime, and I know that Cliff Kingsbury is a terrible head coach, and we've been shouting it from the rooftops. But at the same time, like, those sorts of teams with bad players, with bad coaches, can still do reasonably fine if there's actual, like, spirit and motivation behind it. And sometimes that's got to come from a leader somewhere. And if you're paying a guy $250 million, that has to be where it starts from.
Yeah, I get it. I just think too much blame is laid at his feet for bad contract decisions that inflate his like standing within the team.
I mean, it could just be the case. Maybe it is. But it's just it's just a thing that I think has just been like gnawing away just a tiny bit. Like, every time that we do one of these podcasts and we have to talk about the Cardinals again, it's like, oh yeah, the team has absolutely no motivation behind it, and it turns out that there's also just like a bunch of shit coming out, and oh great, I wonder whose fault it is. And it's always
Can I
like
stop
three
you
people.
for a second?
Yeah, go on.
We don't actually have to talk about the Cardinals.
We don't.
Yeah, I don't
Our
want to
podcast.
talk about this game for 1 second longer.
Let's not. Moving on.
You
then.
in hell.
Oh Jesus. Okay. Let's move on then to the rest of the games. Starting with Bengals 20, Titans 16 at Nissan Stadium. Titans lost this game on a roughing the kicker call that then enabled the Bengals to carry on their drive, and they scored a game-winning touchdown. Yeah. Yikes. There was more problems in this Titans performance. Derrick Henry only running for 38 yards on 17 carries, which isn't great considering how important he is to their good form over the last few weeks. But on the other end, Cincinnati did all right. Samaje Perine again scored another touchdown. T. Higgins is absolutely balling out in the absence of Jamar Chase. Be interesting to see whether or not they continue to look his way a little bit more, with Chase apparently set to come back this week. Yeah, I'd say that a well-deserved and well-earned Bengals win, but the Titans will be kicking themselves.
Yeah, I mean this did seem like a classic kind of Titans performance, like the stay in it kind of against most odds, but like it was such a stupid penalty. The long snapper like didn't even, he was literally still staring at the ground. Like there was no semblance of like a possibility that he could have been like he could have had his head up, not be defenseless. It was stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this one was just like. I mean, the Bengals are probably going to win the division, right? If the Ravens keep messing around. And to me, it seems fairly likely that the Titans are going to win their sorry ass division as well. But it's one of those that are just like. It is time for all these teams who are there or thereabouts in the playoff picture, like the 5th and 6th seeds, to start making a statement. I don't think either of these teams made a statement in this game. The Titans, to me, feel like they're just going to get dumped out in the first game they play. But the Bengals, with getting Jamar Chase back, like I know what you say, like T. Higgins would be the wide receiver one on half the teams in the league, but getting Jamar Chase is going to make them, and is going to take their offense probably another level up as long as he's healthy.
Yeah.
So the Bengals for me are a team to watch.
Yeah, they've got a little bit more firepower about them. When you get off to a slow start, sometimes people start like over analyzing things, but they seem to have gotten it right again. Although they are having a hot November, so maybe they won't do shit because don't win a Super Bowl with a good November. But you never know. I do believe that they are a better team than they were 5 weeks ago, which is saying a lot. And they will likely continue to get better as well as we get into these later months. Yeah, one to watch. Next game is Broncos 10, Panthers 23. All hail, Sam Darnold. All hail. Bow down to his one good game a season. For he has scalped Russell Wilson to the point where his own defensive player started aggressively yelling at him on the sidelines when they were down 23-3. Oh dear.
Nice, okay, man. They're on the same page. They just want to win. You got
Yeah.
you got that dog.
That dog got put down a long time ago. Honestly, this team stinks.
Fucking hopeless.
Oh, annoying.
I picked this team, and I hate myself for it.
Honestly, I don't know why. There's some kind of like final stand that's been going on for like 5 weeks. Stop picking the Broncos. It doesn't matter who they play.
You know they're bad, but every week they set a new precedent for how bad they actually are.
And they do it against a team that's significantly worse coming into it. Like the Panthers have started like 3 different players at quarterback every single game for the last 5 or 6 weeks for varying reasons. They get Sam Darnold back off of injury, and why is Sam Darnold winning this game?
Realistically, Carolina were not the worst team coming into this game. Like they've had a great few weeks.
It is actually it's embarrassing to the point where like Denver had probably the most hype about them in terms of they've finally got their quarterback and this is it. And they have a worse record than teams as bad as the Raiders, the Colts, the Steelers, the Panthers,
the Packers,
the Lions. There are so many moribund and dreadful teams that have gotten better records than the Denver Broncos this season. And they're paying Russell Wilson $50 million a year for fucking 6 more years. To have the pleasure of this.
Like we don't have to talk about Carolina. Like there is nothing to be gained from it. But I'm gonna ask you both to do something which I don't want to ask.
Is it to swear an oath?
It may cause you some degree of psychic harm.
Okay.
But imagine for just a moment that you were part owner of the Denver Broncos.
Okay,
What
so
the
I'm
fuck
rich
do
as
you
fuck.
do? Like, Well, yeah. First, you buy a golden toilet, and then what do you do?
Buy a golden shower.
Like this team as is unfixably bad. Like if you do decide to bail on Russell Wilson, it financially cripples you for at least 2 years. But then, like, where the fuck are you?
Well,
Like, how could anyone possibly feel worse about a team?
so let's brainstorm this then. So we got Robson Walton, right? Sam Robson Walton, the dude who owns the Broncos. He's from Oklahoma, so all right.
Okay.
All right now.
My name's Sam.
Oh, my daddy built the Walmart empire. I ain't gonna sit by and watch Russell Wilson tear down the Denver empire. I'm out of this.
That picture of Rosa Parks.
Oh, fucking hell.
I've been waiting for something because I just can't. I can't understand how badly it's going. And
Well,
like,
Hackett's gone at the end of this year, right? There's absolutely no chance that Nathaniel Hackett stays as a head coach of an NFL team. There's very little doubt that he doesn't get a job as a head coach of an NFL team other than for the Texans in 5 years.
unless he has
ever again.
Unless he has like a Dan Quinn-esque resurgence, like as an OC somewhere, like he's not touching that chair again.
It's
a golden
crazy.
chair because he's rich.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, but yeah, honestly, no. Also, when I just looked up Sam Robson Walton, I noticed that his cousin is also Stan Kroenke's wife, I think, which is something to keep my eye out for. Because
I don't know anything about Arsenal Football Club.
Okay, let's please move on. Please.
Okay, imagine this for a second. And killing yourself is not an option. You're the owner of the Denver Broncos.
Be careful though. It's spicy.
He just sits in his desk, placing.
Sits in his desk.
He sits
Yeah,
at
that's
his
fair.
desk every day, placing an unloaded revolver to his head. Because what
What?
else can he do?
Jesus.
Fucking hell. This got
Hey, it's
dark.
unloaded.
Hey, let's get out of here, please.
They could
Denver
finish
is
it off strong anyway.
what? Fucking Robson Walton sat in his desk. Get out, please.
Who do you think set that fire?
They could have like 6 straight weeks of like Russellmania.
Oh my god. Fucking Jesus. Yeah, but it'd have to be like WrestleMania bit in the Vince McMahon era where it's like 85% bad.
Well, he'll in the final game play like, I don't know, Ryan Tannehill, and then the loser gets their head shaved.
Oh,
Okay, pull the ripcord.
please get us out of here. Gonna go then to a pair of teams that are actually either in the playoffs or on the outside of the playoff picture. The Washington Commanders pick up another win, maybe one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now. 7-5 at the moment, 19-13 winners over the Atlanta Falcons. Funny that the Falcons are 5-7 and also a game back on the playoffs, because the whole NFC South dropped back below 500 this week. Good job, very good job. Proud of the whole division for that one. Nice work. But the Washington Commanders are actually in the playoffs, which means that the whole NFC East is in the postseason as it stands if the season ended today. What a time to be alive. Brian Robinson is playing very good football. considering that he got shot 10 weeks ago. What a time to
I
be
mean,
alive.
even without that, he's playing pretty well.
Yeah. A good
To be
point.
fair to him.
Yeah.
If obviously the Commanders are playing well, we can't take that away from them. But if either of you has one thing that you actually want to talk about from this game that is not the extra large novelty hat, I don't know what I could possibly say to fix you.
Well, why don't we talk about the novelty hat then for people that don't know? since you've led us here, since you've led us astray.
Fine, we'll talk about the. Well, why don't we talk about the statue instead?
I mean, it's a good point. It is a good point.
No,
but can we start with the hat and then?
Okay, that was a big hat, wasn't it? It looked pretty funny.
It's like a 30 Rock joke come to life. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen, and it's also the best thing I've ever seen, and I want them to
Just
do
carry on
well.
your business like I'm not wearing that hat.
God, he's such a good friend. Like,
Well,
imagine...
wouldn't you be friends with someone if they gave you a hat like that?
Mr. Robinson, your hat is making a buzzing noise.
Do you think it's just like is he being like co-opted by the CIA to get like
What day on Dan Snyder? Yeah.
There's
Well,
just a really
maybe.
big, like 1978 tape recorder in.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
They didn't have enough dirt on Dan Snyder, but they have to enact the big hat protocol.
Yeah.
Are you aware that perhaps you have a bee in your bonnet?
Fucking Jesus. Yeah, and then the other thing, as Matt sort of briefly mentioned, is that the Washington Commanders, in their typical fashion, once a year, right in the middle of a Dan Snyder like tribunal or controversy, will just suddenly remember, oh yeah, here's a guy that everybody likes. How can we use that for good publicity? Again, it was Sean Taylor. This time they erected a memorial installation, inverted commas, which everybody sort of thought would be a statue. They didn't expect it to be a mannequin taken from J.C. Penney's with the old redacted name for Sean Taylor on it, and that was it. Just a redacted uniform with Sean Taylor on a faceless, empty, hollow mannequin, which is just about the best description for the Washington football team for the last 25 years. An empty husk mannequin.
Not even like a replica of like a uniform that he wore, or an actual uniform that he wore. Like, they just piece shit together. Like, none of it was the same make. The boots were like Adidas World Cup boots.
Oh my god.
Or,
I didn't even pay attention to the actual like quality of everything. I saw that it was the redacted uniform, because my first point was, because on that first video it didn't look like it was that. It looked like it was the current Commander's uniform, in which I was like,
no.
that would be. I don't know whether it'd be worse to have the old uniform with the racism on, or the new uniform that he clearly would have never worn. Obviously, it was all just wrong. The whole thing was just a farce again. It's just not a good franchise.
Yeah.
Just not a good team.
I mean, hey, you know, they're winning.
That hat was big, wasn't it? That hat was really huge. It was a big fucking hat.
Didn't hear anything about hat. They've been doing very well, but like their stretch like from here is like pretty rough. Well, kind of. They have Giants by Giants, Niners redacted, Cowboys. Like
I could see them winning
could
two
see
of
them winning
those.
2, yeah.
And
But,
9 and 8 might get them into the postseason from the NFC.
in the NFC, it absolutely will.
Yeah.
I can't believe how long we spent talking about this game.
Yeah, me neither.
I really can't.
Yeah. How? God, we haven't even talked about Mike White yet.
Yeah, we're gonna just go straight into that.
Mike White.
Jets 31, Bears 10. Mike White started over Zach Wilson, who was hilariously benched, and then threw 22 of 28, 315 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, good job, Zach Wilson. You are going to be in the CFL in a year and a half. Good shit. You might actually be able to go and play in the XFL because maybe they'll want you. Also, Eddie Jackson picked up a pretty gnarly looking injury. They might be shutting him down for the rest of the season. It says indefinitely on his thing, which isn't good because the Bears were already a bad secondary at the moment, and now they get significantly worse. Shame. My biggest talking point for this one is that we almost got Nathan Peterman playing a game in the NFL in 2022.
That close.
We were so close. so close. But then Trevor Siemian came back in and played really quite middling and not notable at all.
I've literally been staring at the like slate for this episode, trying to think of a Simeon Mobile Disco joke. For
And here it is.
hour and a half, and I've got nothing.
Oh.
It's alright, because Trevor Siemian was looking at the playbook for an hour and a half, and he's got nothing either.
But yeah, I call him Simeon Mobile Disco because he thinks that he can run on a play, but then his feet get stuck to the floor.
Right. There were 3 other games played this week. I don't even really have any other talking points about any of them.
I mean, just to like before we like put a bullet in this game's head, like it is ridiculous how Mike White played well, but like it's ridiculous how average quarterback play needs to be like for this team to really do well.
Yeah. They just needed to be standard, and they would win
Yeah.
31-10 against the Bears because the Jets are a quite good team this year. And that is the sad reality of Zach Wilson's career, is that he was an active detriment to the New York Football Jets, and now they've just taken off. they could just continue to absolutely bully teams as well. Just really quite funny. 3 other games we played this week. Stop me if you have any talking points about these.
Okay.
Texans 15 at Dolphins 30. Anyone?
Awful. Two was bench for like the whole second half. Like they had backups playing.
Yeah. And funnily enough, they actually almost had to bring him back in, I thought, at one point. Which, little ha-ha chuckle.
Go on.
Rams 10, Chiefs 26 at Arrowhead.
Bryce Perkins.
Yeah, who's
Yeah,
Bryce
woo.
Perkins?
I don't know. He's played many snaps and yeah, Rams just stink.
Maybe they can get a quarterback with the 3rd overall pick.
It's funny because they don't have it. It's Detroit who has it.
Oh yeah.
It's really something. Oh, so proud of them. And then finally, Saints nothing, shut out by the 49ers, who scored 13 points.
Ooh,
No.
Dalton tried so gosh darn hard.
I'm so
Alvin
sick
Kamara
of the Saints this year.
Andy Dalton was the leading rusher with 21 yards.
Yeah, it's bad. It's so bad.
Oh,
Chris Olave is playing really well as well, which is the problem. is that they have one exceptional talented wide receiver and absolutely nobody knows what to do with any of it.
Yeah, they've put all their talent eggs in one talent basket, and now they're paying for it.
It is funny because you would have thought going in that Olave, Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry would be pretty good. And yet, here we are.
That's why you'd be wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe they should go back to the guy with a broken back.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, fuck it. Let Jameis do it. Jameis, no. Yeah, you can find whatever whenever we go doing one of these again over the next month on all good podcast places. You know where to look because you're listening right now. You can also find us on Twitter at StiffLipPod. Sam, have you got a closing remark for us at all?
Go Socceroos.
Wonderful. I'm really proud. They did it. They really did. Let's
For fuck's sake.
I forgot how long this went on for.